Hello, Dealing with Deconstruction community. One of the things that I really want to make sure that this community that is built around this channel is doing is asking and answering tough questions. So when I saw this video of Reverend Brandan Robertson kind of summing up what he views the evangelical, if you will, idea, I wanted to just address it. And so I'm going to play some clips from him, and we're just going to talk about them real quick. This is not going to be a long video. There's a lot more that we could say because his video is 28 minutes long. There's some places that I agree with him and some places that I disagree with him, but I'm not going to go into all of those details. So let's dive in. So one of the things that Brandan starts off with is kind of creating this contrast between the background that he was educated in, Moody. He even talks about John Piper, kind of this neo-evangelical, as he calls it. And I don't know if I would agree with his categorization, but I feel like that he and I have a similar background. We were brought up and educated in similar ways. Now, Brandan has far more letters after his name, far more degrees after his name, but he's going after a friend of mine named Mike Winger. And I think some of his categorizations of what Mike does is a little bit strange. And if you're in this deconstruction process, if you look at what Brandan says in this video and you say, yes, I completely agree with him, I want you to let me know in the comments, because I'm going to give kind of my experience of where I feel like I came out of and what I understood to be going on. So let's just play this clip and we're going to interact with it here.
I believed. And as I started asking these questions, my conservative evangelical environment did what Mike Winger has built his platform on doing. They began to critique and demonize. It wasn't a matter of having a conversation. The problem is, in a conservative religious context, questions and doubts are usually not allowed. Really, when you begin asking the hard questions, when you begin listening to perspectives that are considered outside of the fold, immediately what happens is demonization. Literally, they say.
Well, okay, so let's talk about this for just a second. Now, his experience, and I'm not discounting his experience, but that has not been my experience. Maybe your experience has been different, but when I started asking questions, deep questions, I was encouraged to continue to read. I was encouraged to continue to search, so much so that one of the people that I started asking questions to was a friend of mine. His name was Andy Kerr. He was the pastor at the church that I was currently working at, and he said, you know what, let's start meeting every single Friday and go through some of those questions that you had. So he was in no way scared of the questions that I had. Now, through that relationship, through me asking questions, reading books, listening to podcasts, that's how I grew in my understanding of who God was, my relationship with God, and I got answers to some of those questions. Now, I'm not discounting that some people are told don't ask questions, but I think in general, my experience has been, yes, let's ask the questions. And I think one of the things that's ironic is Mike Winger's whole platform, his whole YouTube channel is about addressing sometimes really difficult questions. He's done videos where atheists he's responding to atheists and dealing with some of their objections. People that are asking questions, he's dealing with them, and he's doing it in a way that as Mike says, he wants to think biblically about something. So his lens is, let's ask the questions. Let's really address the tough subjects, and let's not shy away from them. Let's not shy away from things that may have answers that are going to rub against kind of our sensibilities. But what does the Bible actually say about this? So again, my experience is different than Brandan's experience, and I want you to know that I think that there are evangelicals out there that are open to questions, that are open to doubts, that are open to these really big, large questions. Now, he's going to go on here and say something that I think needs a little bit more nuance than Brandan gives it. And so we're going to give him a lot of latitude and a lot of leeway here as he is talking. But I do want to address it because I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding, or at least a little bit of the way that he's trying to communicate it that has an end goal in mind that I just want to talk about. So let's listen to this next little section here.
these are demonic doctrines, these are satanic doctrines. If you begin talking to these people or reading this theology or going to these churches, you're going to open yourself up to being deceived. And if you begin believing things that these other people believe, you're going to prove you're not a Christian, and you're going to confine yourself to God's judgment and hell for eternity.
So right here, he talks about kind of a warning that his mentors, his pastors, his teachers were giving him, that if you go to a mosque, or even if you go to a Catholic service, or if you kind of go outside of the evangelical bubble and read and try to understand and try to seek clarity on what they believe, that you are going to fall into some sort of unchristian or belief system. Now, I think that that's possible, and I think there's evidence that is very clear that that can happen. And so I think pastors sometimes rightly give a warning to say, make sure you're grounded in your understanding of theology and what Christians believe. But I don't think I've ever heard somebody say, don't read a book by that atheist, or don't go have a conversation with Muslims. In fact, it's just the opposite. My evangelical understanding, if you will, has been that we are to go to present the good news. So I don't know how you couldn't do that. I don't know how you could go and present the good news of the gospel to a Muslim without understanding some of their beliefs, without going to talk to them and say, why do you believe what you believe? And then be able to articulate the Christian belief, the kind of the traditional belief, if you will, let's just call it that, to them. So yeah, I would go and read. Another example would be a YouTuber by the name of David Wood, another friend of mine from Acts 17 Apologetics. David has spent countless hours reading the Quran and the Hadiths and the original sources of Muslims, in addition to talking to Muslims, engaging with Muslims, becoming friends with Muslims, all of those things, so that he can make a case against their worldview. So it's not necessarily in principle how reading other literature or understanding other beliefs, not at all. I would say do that. I would say on your Christian journey and your journey of truth, read from other perspectives, understand other perspectives, read authors from other perspectives. Don't just read Christians commenting on those other perspectives, but read those other perspectives. Recently, I was diving into understanding the Buddhist faith a bit more. Well, I literally took a class taught by a Buddhist to understand Buddhism. I had no problem doing something like that. I took the pieces that are true from that class, true about reality, if you will, and I can say, yeah, I think this is a good thing. And I can take the pieces that are clearly false and say, I don't think this works, and I can explain why I don't think that works. So I don't think that there is any necessary problem, any fundamental and principal problem with reading outside of Christians, with going to engage in other worldviews. Now, I think where it does become problematic is when you start to do what's called syncretism, is when you start to kind of merge some of their core beliefs with some of Christianity's core beliefs, where they aren't compatible at all. That's where I think the warning would truly be, is don't try to shove a belief that's contradictory to Christianity or outside of Christianity into your Christian faith. So there's lots more that I could say about this video, but there's probably going to be other responses that are going to be far more in-depth and far more nuanced. What I want to encourage you, if you're watching this video, is to say, yes, go read, go understand, go talk to other people from other belief systems, understand what they believe, and seek truth. Truth is our cornerstone. If something that I said in this video resonates with you, I want to invite you to our Facebook group called Dealing With Deconstruction. The link for that is in the description. If you are on this journey of deconstruction, if you watch this video, if you watch the video by Brandan and you say, man, he made a lot of really good points and I identify with what he's saying, and I'm not really sure if he's the direction that I want to go, or I'm not really sure if his characterization of some things is correct, then please consider joining our Facebook group and ask lots of questions about it. we are not afraid of questions here at Dealing with Deconstruction, and I'm just going to invite you to continue to doubt, to seek, and as I end every episode, I'm inviting you to doubt towards faith.